past or a gossip session. But when you are able to say, no, then maybe you can go, there's this case, or go to that department and be able to get that. So that's where I'm coming from. So the first person I want to deal with is Paul O'Sullivan. So he's been operating within our SAPS in particular since 1990. You've been in the service since for 38 years now. So do you have any knowledge or experience of any of his dealings or operations within the criminal justice system, even if it's not necessarily SAPS, because you've also worked with, with DBC and with defense, etc. So anything?
The first encounter with Mr. O'Sullivan was when I started to work in Gauteng as the Deputy Provincial Commissioner responsible for crime detection. In that, he was assisting with some of the investigations, and I know the first encounter is when Paul O'Sullivan was providing information in relation to other matter that was under investigation that was involving one of the convicted criminal, rather than Krecher. So that is when I started to know Paul O'Sullivan. Even came to my office with other files or the personnel of his office, but I received a call from him that they want to hand the dossier on another investigation. So I did interacted, and I know that Paul O'Sullivan was interacting, or Ndade Paul O'Sullivan, because he is older than me, and I'm taught to respect and call him Mr. Paul O'Sullivan.
So you entertained him based on his age. Did you do any investigations into him? Because, I mean, there's a lot of people, let's just be honest, that would send you messages, that will email you, say that they have information. Why was Paul O'Sullivan the one that you were okay to accept dossiers from, besides his age, given your experience in SAPS?
I did not say I accepted. I said he called my office because I was the deputy responsible for crime detection in Gauteng as a province then, and he had that dossier. So,
and what did you do with it?
It will go to the investigators, not myself.
But so you met with him?
I met.
Spoke to you for how many hours?
I can't recall how many hours.
It was long, hey?
It was very short.
Oh, okay. Are you aware of any investigations that have been conducted into Paul O'Sullivan? Even if it was just that he was listed as a person of interest, you were not curious how this person came across a whole dossier of information on a very high-profile matter?
It was not, I can't recall what the case was. At the time, he wanted the pursuance of, he should have submitted the dossier to investigate General Munu. I think he came to me that General Munu, who was the divisional commissioner at the time, we want him to be investigated. So that was my first encounter. And he submitted that dossier that was booked out to the investigators to continue the investigation, because my role was to manage and ensure the work is done, not to do the work myself.
So more or less, how many times when you were in Gauteng did Paul O'Sullivan contact you directly and not the investigating officer to come and hand over information?
I think that was the only encounter, and other times where I would have seen or heard about Paul O'Sullivan, because I was the deputy responsible for detectives. General Sibia was the provincial head responsible for the Hawks. So I take most of the matters that Paul will have, will be at that level of DPCI, and I got to know him from General Sibia's point of view.
So you and Lieutenant General Sibia think that he was actually a forensic investigator? So it was you and, well, from what I'm saying, let's just say you for now, that allowed this man into our criminal justice system at the level that he was, because any ordinary South African private citizen, Lieutenant General, cannot even get hold of a police officer. This man is having meetings with you, and he just calls you and you make yourself available. Why?
any citizen of this country who's having information on the case, who is inquiring about certain matters or any case, does have access to me. So it's not only
So how
Ntate
many other
O'Sullivan.
normal South Africans, just private citizens, have come to you to hand you over information?
In my career, a lot. I can't count. I cannot
Paul
count.
O'Sullivan-
Even now, I do receive emails from the people that I do not
that
even
come
know.
and you have meetings with,
A lot.
and you don't refer them to the IO. You actually
I will
take
refer
it in.
them.
So he wasn't unique at all in that way. And you trusted that this man was not trying to infiltrate our criminal justice system, that he was actually a forensic investigator. Did you, that being the head of detectives, do any investigations into him?
No.
Okay. So who does South Africa trust? Because the job of SAPS is to protect our criminal justice system. You and your colleagues are the most senior leaders in this country. So if you can just go and get information from random citizens, allow them to have meetings whenever and however they want, who protects the ordinary South Africans from people who now we can see has been trying to capture our criminal justice system? Because it started off there. That's why he can come here into Parliament, walk out when he wants. He even threatens members of Parliament. So it started off there. And that's your responsibility, you and your colleagues' responsibilities to protect us, protect the nation, Lieutenant General. What happened? Why was that not done? Because everything, pretty much everything we know about him that we thought we knew. We have evidence that says otherwise.
I don't think for a person to come and share the information or to present information, it's untoward if you don't know where he's coming from or if he is not or she is not doing anything wrong. Any person can come and present the case and he or she will be, listen, that is what happened. And I can put my head on the block that South Africans with the 38 years service that I had, I have been assisting people and I'll continue to do that as long as I am in office. And you can trust me in that. But one person that has done wrong or that was established afterwards but it's having other ulterior motives needs to be investigated from that point of view. It cannot be correct that if a person just walk in your office, you don't know, you don't have a background, you just decide not to listen to that particular individual. But if there is an indication and evidence that shows that there is an ulterior motive, it will be taken from there. And again, it doesn't mean everything that he presents, it's having an ulterior motive. Hence, it must be interrogated and be investigated. And with the facts, then we can indicate that, but here you are overreaching. So at the time, it was not present.
So the question wasn't whether he provided true information or not, etc. The question is that we have someone who has direct access to you, a very senior official, you and many others, right? There has been for the longest time. You can just go and part of your job is crime intelligence. I mean, as SAPS, is to keep abreast of what's going on in the nation. So at some point, as our highest ranking officials there in SAPS, what is the story with Paul O'Sullivan? Is he let's not talk about the evidence. What is the story with him? None of you ever sat down with each other and say, who is this man that has all this information? Because that is your job, is to protect us as the nation. It's not our job. So I'm not speaking directly to you, but it's you and your colleagues who are tasked with this, Lieutenant General. It's not us as ordinary citizens in this country. So I'm saying at no point amongst you and your colleagues did you all ever question who is this person, because he's been going around in media for the long time. I mean, the highest point was in 2019, where every single media outlet was reporting about it was iPad showdown with him and Pakhlani, our acting national commissioner at this time, and SAPS. During that time, you in that senior leader position, was there any discussions about who is this person, what should happen, anything?
Discussions could have been there individual, but the investigative authority and the intelligence communities I believe, were doing that they were supposed to do, and they will provide the feedback and their investigation or analysis to the relevant authority. So it's not like we were folding our arms.
That's what yes. So you are saying that as a committee, we must go to those relevant departments and ask them about if they did any investigations and what those investigations were around Paul O'Sullivan's info. And I'm not speaking specifically about the iPad investigations, but about him being a person of interest here in this country. So you are saying that as a committee, there were talks about it, and the relevant departments within SAPS did take up, whatever the outcomes on the investigations are, you might not know, but we here as a committee must be able to access that information or request to access that information.
I think if it's available, if there was a report that was...
You don't own.
I don't know. It can be made available. I think this is the committee, and the purpose that it was established, it's to pursue matters like this. If that information is available, I don't think anyone in the service will refuse.
But there was conversations among senior officials about this, and from what you understand.
Yes, there were because
you were worried about the nation and our criminal justice system being captured by private individuals that we don't know.
Perhaps not specifically or in simpler terms that he has infiltrated, but to have him being the forensic, I think he was the forensic investigator, and nobody presented that this is not a forensic investigator. He might have not acquired those forensic investigation authority and
might not have.
I don't know.
So our evidence leaders, Chair, we're just requesting that we write to the relevant authorities to find out if there have ever been any reports or investigations. Yeah, our secretariat has disappeared, but we have some of our senior legal person is here. And if we can do that speedily so we are able to get if there are any reports. And even if there were just investigations, even if it didn't amount to something, but it can't be that we have senior SAPS officials who were part of this country and part of our nation and who are responsible for protecting us from individuals who possibly were trying to do exactly that. And they were just sitting with their hands folded, actually even just accepting information and making access to them so accessible more than any normal person in the nation. And Lieutenant General, you must know that the average South African right here is sitting and looking at you and they're going to say, don't even know who my IO is. And they have to get money to go even to the police station just to get a status of their case. And they don't even have money to do that. Then they can get to the police station and the police officer can just say, we don't know, the detective's not here, we're just waiting. That's the reality of what your average South African is dealing with. While some of these Paul O'Sullivans can just make a phone call and come and drop off a dossier. Let me allow you to respond. Sorry, because I'm talking.
It's not correct that South Africans will inquire about their cases and they will be told that the detective is not available. There are processes, there are systems in place where we can follow up. Even myself, I'm no longer in the detective. When complaints come, I divert and revert them to the relevant authority that will assist. And if they give me feedback that they shouldn't, because I'm not in the detective space, but because I'm a senior manager, if I get feedback, I will communicate it back to the person who's making such an inquiry.
Lieutenant General, South Africans are going to drag you because I'm telling you that it's not. We understand that there are systems, there is. We get SMSs, they're not. Sometimes you can get an SMS, it'll take forever to get one who has been allocated to, you can go. And that is the reality of the majority of South Africans here in this country. We know that there are systems. We don't dispute that. Very functional systems, well, at least if they function properly, we will all be able to be well serviced here in the country. Let's talk about your iPad case.